do it as soon as 3 and a 2, and it's loading. And I'll give it to 1 in a second, and we're live. Go for it.
All right, episode 88. Today we are honored to have the star of A&E reality TV show Flip This House, Armando Montelongo. Right, super excited about this. We're going to get started right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 88. I'm excited about this one.
Pumped about this one, man. This will be a lot of fun.
Yes, we have on. By the way, if this is your first time listening and tuning into this, please go over to our real estate group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, and then go to iTunes, leave us a review on there, the only real estate podcast worth listening to, 5-star reviews only. And we're excited. Today we have the star of A&E reality TV show, Flip This House, and the most talked about boss ever featured on Undercover Boss, Armando Montelongo. He is one of the most successful residential real estate investors in the nation. And before Armando started flipping houses, he was surviving on food stamps, $50,000 in debt, and lived in his in-laws' garage. But he turned his fortunes around by learning real estate investing and perfecting a system that made him millions of dollars in his first year in business and $3 million in 3 years. Armando has since founded the Armando Montelongo Educational Companies to share his success and passion in teaching others how to find, fund, fix, and flip homes profitably. So today we're excited to have Armando on, and this is our last show.
Second to last. We're going to do the 23rd as well.
Here's what I need. I need to do some more stuff because I need a bio like that when I go on people's podcasts.
That was like, what's
just get like a nice little intro
what's
page.
The scene
That's
in
sweet,
the scene in Rocky IV before Creed fights Ivan Drago, and he's like calling out all his nicknames, and he's like, "How many nicknames you got?" He's like, "Almost done."
Almost done.
Yeah, that's what that bio felt like.
Well,
I
thanks
love
for
it.
joining us, man. We were happy to have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mom wrote that bio.
There you go. Exactly.
Hey, everybody, real quick before we get going, give us a quick audio check. We're working with some systems today. We'll make sure we're not getting feedback. So if the audio sounds funky, somebody shout us out on this and let us know as we
All
move
right,
throughout,
big
please.
check.
Yeah.
Mic
Yeah,
check.
looking
Right here.
good. Looking good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Yep,
on my end.
we're sounding good. So Armando, walk us through. So you got your start. I mean, we read that bio there, and you got your start, and you're out of San Antonio, flipping houses. What are you doing? Let's take us through the flipping houses portion of it. Were you ever a real estate agent or only real estate investor?
Well, it's funny. My entire career, last 19 years of doing real estate, I have been a real estate investor, and then this year I actually bought a brokerage.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I bought a brokerage. I'm not an agent. I never was an agent. I just kind of found a fast track way to buy a brokerage, so I bought a brokerage. It's kind of it's one of those things that people say money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a brokerage.
Sure.
So, but so I got a brokerage this year, but I've been working as an investor now for 19 years, and I've had the opportunity and the privilege of training thousands of agents to become investors, and then thousands of investors how to properly work with agents, because I think you guys know this as well as anybody. There's this interesting relationship that's not always friendly between investors and realtors, and they butt heads a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's because they don't speak each other's language and they don't see where the other side's coming from. And so one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about, and when I teach investors how to work with, is how to properly work with an agent and not just burn through your agents.
Sure.
Right? Not have them putting like BS offers in, not having them go and look for properties that you can't afford or that you don't have proof of funds for, because and I think the relationship goes both ways, right? I think that agents don't trust the investor who's like, oh, I want to go do deals, right?
Sure.
And investors are going, man, I have a heck of a time finding an agent who will work with me. But one good investor is worth literally one good investor is worth 10 to 20 clients, good clients in a single year, because a good investor will buy 10, 20, 30 properties in a single year if they're a solid investor, right? And then they'll repeat that process every year. So I try to teach my people how to be good investors by considering where the agent actually has to go through in the process.
100%. And for, I guess that's a really good place to dive in. You know, obviously we're all on the kind of the same page as far as we're all kind of agents and investors here in the studio, and we deal with a lot of the same things. What do you think is kind of a really good example of the thing you were talking about before, in which investors and realtors tend to butt heads sometimes because they don't speak each other's language? What do you think are some of the key examples of things that realtors don't really understand about the investment side of real estate that they need to get schooled up on to really have that better relationship with consistent investors that can close?
So the realtor part, right? So the investors aren't necessarily taught the law as far as the rules that real estate agents know.
Sure.
Agents aren't taught how to properly evaluate properties.
Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, I went to go look. I'm always playing and tweaking with the market. So I tried a brand new realtor the other day. Okay. Now this person doesn't work for my brokerage. I just wanted to see what this would look like.
Sure.
And I said, pull me some comps. Well, she pulled comps for me in a 3-mile radius, and she was jumping in major freeways, jumping major crossroads.
Sure.
And I said, these are not valid comps. And she's like, but this is how I taught how to do it. I said, well, not by me, right? So I teach my students, listen, a 1-mile radius for a comp is not a comp. And you're taught that's what a comp is. That's what appraisers use, is a 1-mile radius.
Right.
You have to comp within subdivisions. And subdivisions can vary in size, but that's how you're going to get a true comp, either subdivisions or across major roads.
Yep.
Without that, you're not going to have a valid comp, and you're going to get stuck at the point of sale, right? So I think if an investor tells the agent, and the investor has to be educated. They can't read a single book and go, oh, okay, this is what
right.
A book's a great starting point, but they can't go and say, oh, give me some properties that are in a comp to this house,
yeah.
right? So what happens is they need to say, I want a comp, and here's my stats for wanting this comp, right? And here's my location parameters for wanting this comp. And if they do that, they cut to the chase quite a bit. Yeah. And then guess what? The agent's motivated because they're like, damn, this person knows what they're talking about. This person knows what they're doing. And then if you have proof of funds, give the agent a proof of funds.
Sure.
Give them proof of funds. They need it anyways.
I love that this is what you're talking about too, because I think this is part of the agents need to hear that this is part of the process too. A savvy investor should know what they want, not just, hey, I'm looking for a deal in DFW. Like, first off, fuck that, man. There is way too much space in the Metroplex for me just to be able to pull deals from the whole Metroplex, first off, right? And then coming with that proof of funds. I think I'm glad to hear a savvy investor say that, because I think a lot of agents think that they just have to run and go show properties and run comps and do all this extra work for investors. A good investor is not going to run you to death. They're not trying to use you up. They're trying to use you for the extra network reach that you have.
Well, and that's going to, like, and that's, you know, just something to get schooled up on too as a realtor is that's obviously, especially when you're first starting out, you want to work with as many people as you could possibly work with that are going to close on real estate deals, right? But, you know, as time goes by and you really start to value your time well, that's a really good way to sort of separate, I think, the people that are going to close on deals from the tire kickers a little bit. An experienced investor knows the asset class he's looking for. He knows his entrance and exit strategy. Like, he can articulate those things, right? When Nick and Austin go deal a deal, they know exactly what they're looking for. I mean, obviously, they're more in development now, but a savvy and prudent investor is going to have a strategy up front. And so you can really tease out who's worth, you know, spend a lot of time on, I think, just specifically from understanding a little bit more about what it is that they're looking for and kind of pressing them on that. I would say, as for realtors, though, the other actionable advice we can pull out right now is you got to be able to speak the language of an investor. A lot of that has to do with valuation, like Armando was just talking about. The other thing I would add to that is returns, cash flow. Those are the things that matter to investors. We were talking about a duplex deal that one of our agents is trying to do right now, and the buyers in California has never seen the asset in person. So our agent was running comps, but they're running comps, you know, basically sending them other duplexes and what they were renting for. And I was like, that's all great, you know, but you're kind of running the comps right now like you would on a regular residential deal that somebody was going to move into and live in. What you need to be sending him is, at this particular sales price, here's going to be your NOI, and here's what your overhead's going to be, here's what your return on investment, here's what your internal rate of return is going to be. Like, if you can speak that language, the dude doesn't care what the house looks like or how it compares to other houses around. He cares about what his return on his money is going to be every single year. So if you can start to speak in terms of annualized return and things like that, you're going to have investors knocking down your door, because there's nothing that an investor likes more than a prudent real estate agent that speaks their language that can then go and find them deals. That's an asset for an investor, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The other part is it's the real simple stuff of business, like get back with your people, right? So don't discount somebody just because they're brand new.
Yeah.
Because they're brand new does not mean, like I've had students, so I had these students named Mark and Raul. They they had no money. We showed them some sources and some ways to get money. Their first year they did 22 deals, right?
Wow.
So they went through probably 10 agents, like, no, you're brand new. No, you don't have a proof of funds.
Yeah.
Even though I encourage people to go get those proof of funds, you're brand new. But they ended up doing 22. And by the way, that ended up being 44 deals for the realtor because they did front and back ends.
Wow.
Right? So they got the listing and they got the sales. So, a lot of times investors or agents will go, well, what advice would you give a new agent? And this is going to be absolutely counterproductive to what their broker's advice will give them. But my advice would, don't go spend time with homeowners. Go find investors. Because, and I'll tell you why. Because you're going to waste about 6 months of your time.
Yeah.
You're going to waste about 6 months of your time. Now, obviously, I have a vested interest in saying go look for investors because that's the pool that I play in, right? Not that they can't make money anywhere else. So I have a vested in. So there's a slant, obviously, for it. But let me be absolutely clear about it. I'm not saying don't cut out the other possibilities. But so my first year, so when I started, I was like 50 grand in debt, and I literally did live in a garage. But I made $1 million my first year in investing, and I was buying mold invested homes in Texas. I made $1 million. That agent that I worked with, and I had to go through a lot of agents, and no agents would take me on. No agents would take me seriously. And when I was flipping houses, this was before it was sexy.
Yeah.
This is before, like, if you flipped houses, when I started flipping houses, you were a bottom of the barrel scavenger. Like you're taking grandma's house. So people would go, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "Oh, I flip houses." You know, and people did not want to hear it. So I remember I used to, and I tell investors this whole time: you want to find a good agent? Go to REO agents or go to agents who do high volume and bribe them. They're like, "What do you mean bribe them?" I said, "Fucking people love fucking tacos, right?
We love tacos.
In the Northeast, they like donuts, or if you're in the Northwest, they like a scone. Go take them tacos or donuts or scones and leave your card there. By the second or third week you do it, they're going to say, 'Who's this Armando guy?' And that's what happened to me.
Yep.
So then I got in with them, and before you know it, this big wig realtor started having all these different realtors taking me out, and I was doing REO deals or whatnot, all types of pocket deals. So if you're an agent, I would work that investor pool, and you're gonna let me just warn you, you're gonna find about 20 or 30 bad ones before you find a good one.
Sure.
And man, that good one is going to be worth 10 to 20 clients a year if they're a solid investor.
100%. Your lifetime return on a client is exponentially greater, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So
Well, Armando, let me flip it then, right? So if you have the product, the people will come to you, right? So if you focus on being that listing agent, what would you advise these newer agents or agents that are not heavily involved in listings yet? Where can they go? How should they be marketing and find these motivated sellers, right? Here in Dallas-Fort Worth, maybe, I don't know if you're still in San Antonio or not, but here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we're sitting on 1.5 months of inventory in the entire marketplace, right? So listings are more needed than everything.
Inventory again? How much inventory?
1.5 months. There's 16,000 total homes for sale in all of the North Texas MLS system, right? So there's nothing for sale.
yeah.
Right. So you're going to kill it. Those agents right now, here's what I would be doing, okay? Because those agents are going to kill it when the REO, there's 9 months of shadow inventory right now.
Yeah.
Okay? So in 2008, 2009, there was 2 years of shadow inventory. All right? So there's 9 months of shadow inventory, but it's not a true number as far as timing goes because nothing's been cleared out. In 2008, 2009, foreclosures were still being cleared up.
Yep.
So if I'm a brand new agent and I'm like, oh, I got to meet a paycheck, man, you're not gonna get a paycheck for 3 months, 4 months anyways.
Yep.
I would be building those relationships. Here's exactly how I would do it, but let me say this first. So like my company, we built software to find great deals. Okay, so I was like, I'm tired of screwing around with this shit. So let me just hire some really smart software guys.
Sure.
So, and we don't sell this, we don't promote this, nothing, but I have a software that will go and analyze in any deal in Texas. And it's not like something to go pay $300 a month for, kind of like some of the BSC stuff that's out there. And I can find any deal that's in Texas. So the first week we opened up, I got 8 deals, 8 houses under contract.
Wow.
Because in one city, let me be very clear, in one city, okay? But it also tracked the open rates of agents' emails for offers. And there was a 70% non-open rate for offers that were sent on, for emails that we sent on offers, a 70% non-offer rate or non-open rate. Okay. So, number one, it would be really great if they start by opening their fucking emails.
Yeah.
Emails and get back with their clients. Number two, I would go to the local, and it's going to be a process. I would go to all the local, investment schools, like RIAs, right? Real estate investment school, real estate investment classes, and then I would even hook up with programs like mine and say, hey, I'm an agent. I'll come and work for your students, right? Introduce me. We've had agents, like when we've done these bus tours in California, and we had agents make millions of bucks just working for us, millions of dollars. But the key is they have to actually deliver and look for the houses and look for them in the parameters and get back with people and make the offers. I know there's going to be some BS offers, but in that, there's no driving around.
Yep.
I mean, the driving around is like minimal, so your cost out of pockets is minimal because these individuals already know what they want and they have the proof of funds lined up. And by the way, the house will close in 14 days, so there might be a month and a half of inventory, but that's really for conventional product, right? When the market goes, once it hits, and it may be 3 months, maybe 6 months, but when it hits, the REO market's going to be backed up, and there's going to be, there's an unlimited amount of money that's going to be made during that time period. And that's how I would be thinking, because if you're getting on a limited inventory time period, I would be looking down the road, which is what all business, how you can make money in all business anyways. You can make a killing if you align yourself correctly and do the hard work right now by looking for deals for people, even though there's not a lot of deals out there right now.
So let's explain real quick. Can you explain for the people that don't know what shadow inventory is? Because the majority of real estate agents, by the way, the average length of time in real estate is 5 years right now. So they don't know what that 2008, 9, 10 of 2 years of shadow inventory is.
Yeah.
So there are houses right now all over America that qualify for foreclosure that are not being foreclosed on because of the government moratorium on foreclosures.
Yep.
And by the way, let's say that this inventory opened up January 1. Okay, all the houses in foreclosure will not go to the marketplace because the economy will collapse.
Right.
The real estate markets will collapse. Values will get cut by 50 to 60%. So the banks will leak out REOs or foreclosures. They'll leak them out. But what they're not leaking out is stuff that's going to be up and coming for foreclosure. That's what's called shadow inventory. It's items that qualify to be foreclosed on, to go to government auction, but are not being foreclosed on yet. So right now, and the banks need to unload this stuff. They are not getting enough government money to keep them afloat right now. Banks so they got the PPE money, right? Yeah. They have the PPE money, which they wrote a bunch of loans out there. But those loans are done and gone. They've collected the fees from those loans, okay? Yep. So now banks are struggling again. Banks are hurting again. They don't have loans, other than the fact that they're writing a lot of new home loans and new refinance loans. But the banks that do not specialize in refinance loans are hurting. These are your 10 to 20 branch banks. Yep. Okay, these are not your Chases, and these are not your lending trees, which are the brokerage, really, right? Right. These are your 10 to 20 branch banks. They are massively backed up in inventory, meaning shadow inventory is houses that must go to foreclosure. They need to go to foreclosure, but they haven't gone yet, and they have to get off the bank's books.
Yep.
Perfect. So what's the best way then, right? Because this would be probably the follow-up question. So what I'm hearing is, if with the shadow inventory, it's probably going to continue, in your opinion, it's going to continue to stack as this starts to mature. What's the best way to get in front of these lenders that have these REO properties that would take maybe even a newer agent seriously in wanting to liquidate to them or to their investment group?
Well, they won't go liquidate to an agent right now, okay? So that's why an agent needs to build up a pool of investors with proof of funds and says, hey, I have a pool of 5, 10, 20, 30 investors, because that's where the string's going to come in. Then you go show what we have these investors. Then when they start releasing it, they're going to release it through the REO agents, okay? So when they start releasing it, that agent needs to become friendly with the REO agents, because the REO agents are the ones who have, as you guys know, the alignment with the bank. Okay. Yep. Now they can try to become an REO agent, but if you have a new agency, or if you get a new agent, that's not going to go happen.
Sure.
As those REO agents see that agent making offers on all these houses for multiple different individuals, that person's going to become the first person in their Rolodex. They're going to be the first person on their contact list. That's how they have to begin to buy it, because unless they have $20 million liquid in the bank, they're not going to go to a bank asset manager and say, hey, unload your inventory to me.
Yep.
Okay. So, but when they begin to release it, here's what's going to happen, because a lot of house flippers have gotten out of the marketplace, right? So people think the market's tight for house flippers. House flippers got out of the market. When the market gets bad, house flippers get out of the market, which is stupid. They should be jumping
into the market,
right? So like I made a killing in 2008. I was buying houses that were going for $450,000 in 07 in California. I was buying for $105,000.
Jeez.
Okay. I was buying stuff in Summerlin in Vegas for $85,000. That's going for $380,000 today.
Wow.
All right. So it's a matter of knowing the timing of the marketplace. And so I would go. They're not going to, like I said, they're not going to get it directly from the banks. They need a pool of investor buyers.
Yep.
Themselves with. That's how they're going to create their buying power.
I think it just goes back. Really, this is a really good example is Pat Hyben's 6 steps to seven figures. He talks about a little bit about the '08 crash, and he was like, "Look, I'd never done an investment deal before. I had to lead generate every day, so we just altered our lead generation. It was like being brand new again." I think that's one of the things that a lot of real estate agents are kind of a little bit hard headed that have been in the business for a while. Like, you're not going to run the same offense the first drive of the first quarter as you are your 2-minute drill at the end of the fourth quarter, right? If you're a one-trick pony as a real estate agent, you're not going to survive every type of market atmosphere. So if you're sitting here going like, I've never really done a lot of investment deals, I don't want to go lead generate for a pool of investors, I don't want to call REO agents, I don't want to, like, understand, like, you just got to consider yourself brand new again. It's a different market that you're heading into. You need a different skill set, and if you shy away from getting skilled up on those things, it will affect your business for sure.
Well, let me piggyback off what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Armando, is one, if I don't really want to work with those investors, I'd rather become the listing agent. I'd rather be finding the product, because just like you've got a book that you wrote called Flip and Grow Rich, right? And I think we may have, I don't know if we have authorization or not, Armando, you can approve this or not, if we can give out a couple copies, if there's a certain way they can sign up or whatever. But I would much rather have the deals coming to me so I could determine if I wanted to list them or if I wanted to send them out to investors, or why not flip it or wholesale it myself?
Yeah.
Right? Is that something that you're probably teaching at your brokerage?
Right. So to be able to go and align themselves with the banks and become REO agents, now that's a whole process for doing applications for. There is going to be, I think, a massive opportunity for REO agents. So a bank might go and take on 2 or 3 REO agents in a city of like 2 million people.
Sure.
Right. A single bank might have 2 or 3 REO agents. I think those numbers are going to triple or going to triple. And that REO broker, REO agents, is going to have 10, 20, 30, or 40, 50 agents underneath them. Okay. So it's this massive trickle effect. Then, if you have associations with those individuals, so whether you want to go, if you go list, let me tell you, if you're an REO agent or an REO broker, you're going to make a killing when this thing happens. You're going to make an absolute killing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you want to go take those properties and wholesale them, right? And so for those individuals who don't know wholesaling, is you put it under contract and you go and you move it to somebody else, right? So here's the problem, and I don't know all the agent rules like you guys do. The challenge is, if it's an REO, you can't go sign that contract.
Right.
Okay. You can't go sign the contract, but what you can do is you can put it under contract as an LLC and assign the beneficial right to the LLC. Mm-hmm. And you can sell the LLC or the asset with the underlying property inside of it. Yep. Okay, and you can make money in the LLC. It's like $300 to go set up. So I would move it as a wholesale. So I do teach, obviously, wholesaling quite a bit. I do teach investors how to work with agents, and I tell agents, hey, listen, if you love being an agent, pick up 3 or 4 deals a year. If nothing else, whether you pick up 3 or 4 rentals, do 2 or 3 flips a year, pick up an extra $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 a flip, depending on your market, right? And then from that, like I built, just so you guys, when I started this, I built my career off REO agents and mold invested deals.
Yeah.
So I absolutely know. Like I literally at one time lived in a garage on food stamps. So people don't always know this, but like my wife, when she gave birth to my son Mondo Man, the doctors literally like cut her the wrong way. And so she lost half the blood in her body in 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. And I remember her face was white and her lips were blue. And they wheeled her off to the emergency room. And I said, is she going to be okay? And the doctor says, be prepared to say goodbye because your wife may not live past the next 24 hours. Wow. And though she's there in the intensive care unit, and the nurse comes in, I'm with her, she goes, hey, Mr. Montelongo, we have a problem. So there's a problem when your wife's in the intensive care unit and they tell you have a bigger problem. Well, I go outside and they say, you need to go down to Children's of LA, because we were living in California at this time. So we were in Upland, California. They took my son by ambulance down to Children's of LA, and I go there and I talk to the emergency room doctor in the NICU for children. He goes, Armando, the average human has 300,000 platelet counts. Your son, Mondo Man, has 8,000.
Oh, wow.
So if we bump his head, he'll bleed to death in a matter of minutes. If he cries too hard, he'll bleed to death in a matter of minutes. He says, so be prepared to say goodbye, because your son may not live past the next 24 hours.
Wow.
So here I am, and I'm told in the exact same day that the two people that I care about the most may not live another 24 hours. So after that, they were in the hospital for like 2.5, 3 months. So when they get out of it, and I didn't have any money at that time, right?
Yeah.
Like I went from, like, I was trying to sell cars, right? And I got fired because I was too honest, right? I tried to be a pizza delivery guy. I literally tried to be a pizza, and they would not hire me as a pizza delivery guy, right? I'm not going to tell you the name of the pizza delivery company, but I will tell you that it had a domino effect on my life. It's true, they wouldn't fucking hire me, right? So my wife and my son, the way I got interested in the business is I nursed them back to health for like 6 months, and I lost the little condominium I had to foreclosure.
Oh, wow.
And so we actually ended up living in a garage and on food stamps, okay?
Yeah.
So I began to learn the foreclosure process very, very well, and I've helped a lot. I've helped hundreds of families out of foreclosure, so I've seen it from both perspectives.
Sure.
Both the empathetic perspective, because you're not just taking someone's house, you're not just getting a good fucking deal and cranking your money and making your profit and moving on.
Sure.
This is somebody's home, and you're relieving all the stress, okay?
Yep.
Same time, you're going to create a great home for somebody else, and in the middle, you're going to get paid.
Yep.
So if the relationship between investor and realtor, if you look at the other individuals, if you look at the psychology of all billionaires, is they're actually empathetic people. They're not the money mongers people think they are.
Sure.
They have to have an empathetic cause, all right? So I'm on Amazon the other day, I tried to buy something, it didn't allow me to buy it for whatever reason, and it went and sent me a new link, a different product, a variable product, and I could buy it within half a second. That's called empathy for the customer's problem, the customer situation.
Sure.
Because at the moment I was frustrated. So what's going to happen is there's going to be this mass REO that's going to be, the government will not be able to bail the situation out. There are more REOs in hawk right now, in waiting, in shadow inventory, than there was in 2008.
Yeah.
Okay? To the tune of trillions of dollars. So agents that stick with this process and who learn the investing component, if an agent goes and gets the agent fees and the wholesale fees, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're going to make a killing over a 3-year time period that they probably won't make another 3 to 5 year span in their life.
Yep.
Right? But it's going to be building those relationships with agents and with the with investors and the REO agents. That's my opinion.
Yep.
But I mean, I've been through, so I was here, I invested after there was a crash in Texas, and a mold crash in 01, most people don't know about, so I made millions of dollars in the mold crash between 01 and 03. Okay. Then Katrina hit. Then the crash here, and then I invested in Vegas when only Zappos was investing in Vegas, when nobody would go into Vegas in 12.
Yep.
And so we flipped like $43 million in 9 months, and they gave us an award, and they actually gave us a day. They called it Armando Montelongo. It's really a team day, but it's Armando Montelongo Day. They gave us an award for the amount of properties that we turned and flipped. And so all that comes from seeing an opportunity.
Yep.
And I'm telling you guys, I've seen so what I'm great at, I think, is shooting the gap of knowing when opportunity is going to happen. So for all these agents who's listening to this amazing podcast, I'll tell you, I've done a lot of this podcast. I rarely see somebody who's as well educated as you gentlemen are.
I appreciate that.
I mean, real incredibly. This is great content you're sharing with people. Really great, amazing content.
Thank you.
And I think that the opportunity that's going to be here for individuals who stick with this process and build those client lists and learn something about investing, like Nick's saying, they can shift their family's wealth incredibly by being an agent, right? Or being an investor agent like you guys are. It's a massive opportunity, and it's coming. The handwriting's on the wall. And if you're not looking at it, your eyes are not open. If you're not seeing it, then you're not paying attention to what's happening.
So let me ask you. So with y'all's tracking and everything you're looking at, what areas? Because you said you went to Vegas and you started to hit these other cities and other states. Where are you guys predicting with this shadow inventory? Because there are some numbers that I'm seeing that don't equate to a big bailout. That I personally don't think that's going to happen. I think the government's going to step in because of the way the election and everything else has gone. That's just my personal opinion. But where do you see the states, probably maybe some of these bluer states that get hit a little bit harder? Are there anything that's on your radar that you would say these are the top other states to be listening or to be kind of keeping an eye on that may be the best opportunity for investing?
How about if I give you some of what I would look at as the economic indicators?
Sure.
So I'll give the economic indicators versus the states, okay? So, and I'm actually in alignment. It doesn't sound like we're in alignment with what we agree on, Nick, but actually I'm in alignment with you. I think that the government's going to bail out to the degree that they can.
Sure.
But I don't think they're going to be able to bail it out all the way.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
They're not going to have the funding to bail it out unless we go into the $35 trillion in debt phase, right? We're at $27 trillion right now, right?
Yep.
So they're not going. I think they're going to try to bail some out. But when you have that much inventory, and we're not even talking about the landlords that are behind, who are not being able to go and pay their rents.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the economic indicators that I look at. If median house price range is 11 times income. So take Laguna Beach, California.
Yep.
All right. Median house price range is 12, 13 times income. They're going to crash.
Yep.
Obviously, that's going to happen in Seattle. Obviously, that's going to happen.
I was just saying, the Pacific
and
Northwest.
industry moves out of these places where people do really stupid things.
Sure.
Right. Places like Texas, it's not going to be as bad, right? Because we don't have any state taxes here.
Yep.
We have franchise taxes, we don't have state taxes. So the economic indicators I look at is if the housing value is 10 to 11 times income. That's one of them. The other thing is I always look at high tourism areas.
Sure.
Right. So your Phoenixes, your Vegases, and your Orlandos experience a crash because that extra income that comes out of pocket, those individuals who live there are transient.
Yep.
Right. So, the blackjack dealers, those people are all transients. It's another place that I'm always going to look at first.
Yep.
All right. So that's why you always see Phoenix, Vegas, and Orlando have those ups and down spikes, right? You can catch rides on those areas there. Okay. Like I said, I don't think San Antonio is going to be. I don't think like Texas is going to be as hard, but I'll give San Antonio as an illustration. Okay. San Antonio, the median house price range has grown, but we don't have a lot of people who can afford $350,000, $400,000 houses, but you have a lot of people who are buying them.
Sure.
Okay, but we just don't have the individuals who can pay for those houses here in San Antonio. So I think you're going to see some parts of places in Texas where it's greater than 30% of median, that places within those cities are going to experience a housing crisis or house value is going to drop dramatically. Okay. And then I think it's going to hit California. I think it's going to hit East Coast. And truth be told, I will just say it's going to hit your blue states way harder than your red states.
Sure.
Because their economies are set in a way that is not sustainable.
I think that, and to segue that a little bit, I want to think you're 100% correct too. To speak to this a little bit, how does that affect the multifamily asset class? Because what you'll have is one, you have with evictions, moratoriums on evictions and things like that, you have a lot of multifamily asset owners who are kind of in the same position as single family homeowners right now in mortgage forbearance and things like that, that they can't pay their bills anymore, right? And now you have, if people do start really getting foreclosed on and things like that, you'll have an abundance of ready, willing, and able renters who have just lost their homes, right? And you'll have an arbitrage period of people who own multifamily assets that are probably behind on payments. It seems the way that it's shaping up to me, there are going to be even bigger, possibly bigger opportunities in the multifamily space for the next half decade or so, just as far as economies of scale. I think there's going to be huge opportunities there too.
Multifamily and commercial space always is about an 18-month lag from residential.
Yep.
So if you follow the trends, it's always about 18 months. So it's kind of like the very wealthiest area. The very wealthiest areas are typically 2 to 3 years behind.
Sure.
So if people start to in wealthy areas because they have more cash reserves. Typically, it's about a 2 to 3 year time period. A 3 to 4 year time lag. So to answer your point, I have a student. One of my students, she owns apartments in Manhattan. Right.
Okay.
Her dad had a $300 million net worth, passed away. She owns buildings in Manhattan. She's at a 40% occupancy rate right now. Wow. And they are getting together saying, let's don't pay. But worse than what people not having to pay through because of COVID, worse than that, the states are putting rent control in California and in New York. So here's what she had. She had to pay one tenant $40,000 in back rent because the they said that rent control was retroactive, and she had to go back like 4 years and pay the fucking tenant back.
Oh, wow.
So her building, the cap rate on her building, I mean, the value of her building has gone down by 30 to 40% in the last year and a half.
It's probably a negative cap rate if you're having to pay your own renters now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So what'll happen about an 18-month lag after housing, then you'll start seeing the commercial opportunity happen. So like in 2012, I bought a building. So, the crash hit in 2008. In 2012, I bought a building from Berkshire Hathaway that sold for $9 million in 2005, and I bought it for $2.9 million.
Wow.
Right? And it needed like 18 to 20 grand of repairs.
That's
the building's in great shape. Yeah. Now, it was about a 45% occupancy rate, but it's because it was owned in a note by Berkshire Hathaway and nobody was managing the building.
Yeah.
So we went and put the sucker up like that, So I make about $50,000 a month on that building. And I don't have to do anything. I wake up at the crack of 10, if I want to, right? All these guys on Instagram are like, I get up, I work, I grind to 5 in the morning. Well, grinding means something totally different to me to 5 in the morning. It doesn't like you mean fucking waking up at 5 in the morning. It means doing this shit,
Oh, man.
So, the opportunity, so once the moratorium's off, it's going to be residential.
Yep.
Okay, it's going to be residential. The areas I would look at specifically is going to be up and down California, Nick. I'm going to look at Vegas for sure, because unless Vegas really does something to control their tourism, okay? It's already super shaky. Vegas is already super shaky right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at Orlando, but they have a pretty good overall economy. Orlando usually crashes 2 to 3 years after Vegas crashes. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to look at Phoenix, and even though a lot of those are red states, I'm going to go look up and down the eastern seaboard. I'm talking about like Virginia, right around the DC area. I'm going to be looking at Delaware, because those values are higher than what the median they're 10 to 11 times the median income, and there will be a lot of money to be made there.
100%, man. 100%. So let me ask you this, and let's segue a little bit, because I want to be respectful of your time, and we're trying to wind it down a little bit here. You own a brokerage now, and so and you're a coach and a mentor to a lot of people that are in real estate in some form or another. A lot of them on the agent side, I'm sure, as well. There's this weird thing among the real estate industry where a lot of realtors, even ones that produce a lot, even that sell a lot for a living, they don't tend to invest at the levels that I think people that work so intimately with real estate on a day-to-day basis should, right? Like we know thousands of real estate agents between us, and a lot of them don't put money away to invest in their own assets, right? What are your tips for somebody that, look, if somebody's got a great real estate business and their time is valuable, so they're probably not the person that maybe is going to go and find their own off-market deals, or they're maybe not going to start a whole nother company that's an investment company or something like that. What financial tips, I guess, can you give an agent that is, I need to put this much aside and just build that into my finances, and I need to go invest in real estate. Here's, I can do it in a little bit more of a hands-off way, so I can focus on running my business, but know that I have real equity in something on the side.
Yeah, so in that case, I'd have them find a partner who wants to do the actual fix-up or repairs or management of it, and they're the ones who are driving past the deal or looking at the deals on the internet all the time. The challenge is even though the foreclosures that are on the foreclosure board, let's say that there's not a lot of foreclosures, even though those potential deals are on the foreclosure board, they don't know how to analyze the deals. So number one, I would teach them how to go properly analyze if it's a good deal.
Yep.
Okay, because it's a foreclosure or a pre-foreclosure or a tax lien or tax deed doesn't mean it's a good potential deal. So number one, know how to identify it's a deal.
Yep.
Number two, hook up with a really good asset-based lender for the actual loans. Okay, there's cheap money right now.
Yeah.
I went to, before all this stuff hit, Goldman Sachs invited me to go to the Staples Center, and they were going, Armando, you were flipping houses when everyone thought it was a big scam, when they thought it was like illegal to flip houses, right? And now we are Goldman Sachs, and we're loaning money at 8%. 8% for house flipping.
Really?
When I was borrowing money, I was paying 6 points at 18% in the beginning.
Oh yeah, right? For sure.
It was incredible. It was incredible. But I didn't care because I didn't have any money. I didn't care. I was like, hey, I just made $34,000 on my first deal. Right? And I'll tell most people. And so here's what I would tell people: you may not want to do in real estate investing. I don't want to do real estate investing. I wanted to do TV production. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to do TV, right? So I didn't want to do it. But all of a sudden, I flipped my first house. I saw that $34,000 check, and suddenly I was in love with real estate. I was like, oh, I love this business. This is the greatest business ever, right? Fuck, I love it. So I would say then you can find an equity partner, somebody who will actually do the fix-up and the repairs, right? Yeah. But start building that portfolio of rentals, or go flip a house in a year. There is profit in these houses. Everyone, your friends, your family, people at your brokerage will tell you there's no money in it, or the deals are hard to find. I got 8 deals under contract in a single week a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Okay. The average margin was about $30,000 on these deals. The average value was under $220,000. They're there if you know what you're doing. And you guys, you know, and if you're okay, you guys, you know, Nick, this was your idea and you mentioned it, that I could give. So I lived in a garage, and I actually made this promise, and I don't care if it sounds campy or not, but I was so frustrated one time when my wife and so we were living in a garage, and I remember my mentor at the time told me to move to Texas. He goes, Armando, just move to Texas. There's a big opportunity there in Texas. And so I borrowed $1,000 from my dad, and we were outside of a little Roach Motel in Phoenix, Arizona, okay? And the sun was coming up, the sky's like gray, we're outside this Yellow Rider truck. And I remember crying from the bottom of my belly because I'm desperate, right? I'm desperate. I'm like, this mentor, he told me to go to Texas. Like, I don't know what's in it for him. I mean, I bought $1,000, I don't have any money. And I just remember, I was like crying from the bottom of my belly, and I said, I promised my wife, I said, if I ever learn how to be successful, I will share it with the world.
Right.
Okay? And so I invest heavily, I teach people, but I like to just give people a lot of information and knowledge where it doesn't cost them anything. So Nick, you mentioned that maybe I could give them a few copies of my book, and if that's okay, I would be happy to do it. I'll give you a URL where they can get it for free, if that's cool with you. And this is kind of your guys' idea. It's on you guys. Is that okay?
For sure, we'll post it. We can just post it in the group.
Yeah, we can post it in the group. So shoot us the URL or tell us it, and tell us a little bit about Flip and Grow Rich. Right? I mean,
so it's called. The link is armandosbook.com. Armandosbook.com. My team sent me with a copy of it. I don't walk around with a copy of my book every day. So it's kind of good because my security guard on the way in today, the security guard in my neighborhood asked me, "Hey Armando, will you give me a copy of your book?" So it's Flip and Grow Rich. Nice. And what's kind of badass about it is, if you're like me, you want to know how somebody actually made money. You know?
Yeah.
So I want to know the numbers, and I want to know the story, because I want to make sure there's no BS in it. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to BS.
Yep.
100%.
So what I did is I wrote it in 2 parts. On one side, I wrote the story of how I actually made the money and put the deal, found the mentor and did the deals. And 2, I have the actual stats and how to actually put deals together. So you have a story on the left side that corresponds with the deal on the right side. It's pretty amazing.
I honestly love that, man.
It's been a best-selling book. It took me like a year to write it.
That's awesome.
It's been a best-selling book. But for you guys have been great. All the people who listen to your podcast, they can have it for free at armandosbook.com. So,
man, we
awesome.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it.
Incredibly generous. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. And here's the thing, guys, and just to take it back to one more piece of actionable advice. First of all, thank you for sharing everything that you have. I will tell you guys out there, real estate agents, if you're not already investing on your own, it's true, right? If you grind it out, you can find equity partners. You can find all the different ways to creatively finance deals, to find deals in the first place. You can do all those things, right? The less money and free capital that you have to invest, the more grunt work that you have to do to go create your own future, right? And hopefully, I say hopefully because I know all of y'all, not all of y'all pay your taxes, but hopefully when you're doing your closings, right, you're taking that percentage and you're putting it away for taxes. Go create that future self-tax, right? Get used to putting money away from every one of your deals that you are going to take away from yourself, right? And go invest somewhere, whether that's in a fund, whether it's in your own deals, whatever. Like, you're never going to come into this windfall of money. Statistically, it's just not going to happen in your life. You've got to build it on your own. And we get so used to living off of every dime that we make. If you just take that money away from yourself right up front and invest it in that 75-year-old version of yourself down the road who's screaming for you to do the right thing right now, you get used to living off whatever's left over. So build that into your closings and take that away from yourself.
Let's do this. Ask questions, though. Like, get with people like myself. Reach out. Go to armandosbook.com. Reach out to Armando. By the way, I didn't know Armando before. We connected on LinkedIn, by the way. So it's not like, him and I go way back, right? So you never know who you're going to connect with during this time.
There was that stint in San Quentin.
Yes. We promise not to talk about that, though. But even Brian today is investing in one of our funds that Austin and I have. And you know, that would not have happened if you didn't text me. He's like, hey, I got some money. What about this deal? I'm like, why don't you just stick with us? We already know, like, and trust each other.
No, I mean, we practice what we preach on the show. I tell this all the time. Like, Nick was a guy that used to scare the hell out of me. He called me and bitched at me one time because I accidentally left the front door of one of his listings open like 10 years ago. And I've always aspired to be like, Nick, like, I just cut Nick a check, or will be on a Friday, for tens and tens, or sorry, I should say Nick's brother, for tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars that I'm investing in a deal with them. And that's because I took time in my career to expand my network of people that I know. Like, the opportunities are out there. It's really coming down to building relationships is huge, and not being afraid to ask questions, you know?
Absolutely. Well, Armando, you're now a friend of the show. If there's anything that we can do, we're going to send everyone who's interested in investing and wanting to learn the flipping, the wholesale. I mean, this is a huge knowledge drop. I mean, people in the comments, by the way, this is live, and then we'll shoot this out to iTunes. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, share this out, send this to somebody, right? I mean, this is the holiday season. Why don't you send this out, or tell them to go to armandosbook.com and put their name and information in there and send them that book as a gift. Right. Armando, thank you so much for being here, a part of this. And on behalf of everyone here at TOR, we truly appreciate your time. We know it's really, really valuable.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a true pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening, guys. We will talk to you soon. Matt?
Brian, get us out of here.
Oh wait. I didn't have my finger on the button. There we go.
There it is. Thanks for watching the show today. Make sure, if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group worth being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one, and then go to that one. Thanks.